It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. The persecution of over 600,000 Rohingya Muslim minority in Myanmar continues, although international media's attention on the matter has subsided. Amnesty International this week stated it reached the conclusion that the treatment of Rohingya in Myanmar amounts to apartheid. On the same day, Amnesty International also pledged to consider if the treatment of Palestinians by the Israeli state also amounts to apartheid. A UN team of legal experts has already confirmed that apartheid exists in Israel-Palestine. 2 months ago, Amnesty International already accused Myanmar of ethnic cleansing, and this week, Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon made a similar accusations. Let's listen.
Many refugees have suffered direct attacks, including loved ones, children, and husbands being killed in front of them, wives and daughters being raped, burns, and other horrific injuries. This has all the hallmarks of ethnic cleansing.
On to talk about this with me is Tun Khin. He is current president of Burmese Rohingya organization in the UK, which has been a leading voice for Rohingya people around the world. Thanks for joining us, Tun.
Thank you.
Also joining us is Shir, Hever, a Real News correspondent in Heidelberg, Germany. His new book is Privatization of Israel's Security, which has been published by Pluto Press. Thank you for joining us, Shir.
Thanks for having me, Sharmini.
So, Tun, let me start with you. Give us a quick update on the situation in Myanmar. What new developments have come about that Amnesty is now responding to? And of course, Senator Merkley's comment there condemning the actions of the government of Myanmar.
Actually, what's been happening right now is situation is very dire, where Rohingyas are still fleeing. Even a few hours ago, I received hundreds of Rohingyas are fleeing from Burma to Bangladesh, and many Rohingya have been arrested by the Burmese military with false allegation, and the restrictions on aid it is still there. Rohingya houses are being burned by Rakhine mob cooperation of Burmese security forces and Burmese military. This is what's happening, and there is no law at all. And every day Rohingyas are being killed by Burmese military and Rakhine mob and Burmese security forces. That is what's happening. And as far as what we are receiving, around almost like 700,000 Rohingya refugees already fled from Burma since 25th of August. So what Amnesty International report I have seen is we welcome the report. Is it that truly what's happening into Rohingyas before this crisis, even many years. So that what even when I was in Burma, I have faced this kind of discrimination policy. When I was there, I have faced that too.
Shir, let me get you in on this. What policies here, in terms of the treatment of the Rohingyas, qualify as apartheid? In other words, why is it a crime? What makes it a crime? Declared by whom?
Yeah, the crime of apartheid has two definitions. One of them is from the United Nations Convention Against Apartheid from the 70s, and the second is the Rome Statute that came into effect in 2002. And these two definitions of apartheid define apartheid as a very clear violation of international law under very clear conditions. There are differences between the two definitions, but they are similar on several issues. First of all, that they say the apartheid policies in South Africa, which created this discrimination between whites and blacks in South Africa, was one form of apartheid, but not the only form. And the crime of apartheid is universal and can apply anywhere around the world when people apply these policies. And second is that it's not enough to have racial policies that create discrimination or to treat people differently based on their ethnicity. It is also required that this will be done in a systematic way, that it will be done in a way that is embedded within the legal system and the governmental system that distinguishes between people based on their ethnicity. And by separating and segregating people based on their ethnicity, and with the goal of trying to demographically engineer society, so making one unwanted group of people smaller, or make them somehow excluded from the economic sphere or from the public sphere. So these policies are defined as the crime of apartheid, and they certainly apply in several areas around the world. But there are many places around the world where there is discrimination against people based on their ethnicity, but if it's not entrenched within the legal and governmental system, it doesn't count as apartheid. In Myanmar, we see this very clearly. The government of Myanmar is targeting the Rohingya as a group and treating them differently than they treat the other citizens of Myanmar. And in a similar way, we see this also in Israel and Palestine.
Right. And Tun, what is the reaction among Rohingyas to this declaration by the Amnesty International that this is an apartheid state now that treats the Rohingyas in this kind of segregated way that Shir just described?
Yeah, the Rohingyas all are suffering for many years. This is good that Amnesty International revealed what is happening to Rohingya people for many years. So we welcome it, and this is good that what international community must come forward for more stronger action to stop that.
Right. And Tun, there are many efforts underway. People have a great difficulty understanding how this Buddhist state, led by San Suu Kyi, who is considered a freedom fighter around the world till now, and the military leadership in Myanmar, the Buddhist leadership in Myanmar, how are they responding to this? And I understand that the current Pope in Rome is also requesting a meeting with the leadership of Myanmar to discuss this. But how does the Buddhist nation, given the philosophy of Buddhism, respond to the Muslim minority in this way? And is it similar to that of what you're experiencing in Europe in terms of Islamophobia against migrants and refugees that are coming there from the Muslim world?
Actually, unfortunately, what I can see here is this is a kind of government systematic policy to exterminate the whole Rohingya population. So also when you talk about this military designed systematic policy to wipe out this population, Rohingya population, for many decades, since 1962, this has been initiated, they have taken initiative to do that. And this is the last a stage of genocide, what we can see the situation here, because the other side, a civilian government who led by Aung San Suu Kyi, she is totally complicit in this crime against genocide against Rohingya, because she is the way she is denying everything by military perpetrating these crimes is really awful, unbelievable as a Nobel Peace Prize winner. So if you look at Burma, it's a kind of top-down. When she's not speaking up, she is denying all these atrocities, though as a whole population in Burma, is she respected by respected her. So that is the thing. Most population are Buddhist, so they all are following her. So that's the thing we come from. We need to look at. And the other thing is, Rohingyas are predominantly a Muslim population in Burma, the largest Muslim minority. That is one of the main issue that why Rohingyas are facing persecution. If you look at the root causes, Rohingyas are facing persecution, religious, ethnic, and political persecution. So they designed the policy like even 1982 citizenship law, which deny deprive basic fundamental rights of the Rohingya. Because of that law, Rohingyas are denied, whole population denying the citizenship. Even though my grandfather was a parliamentary secretary, I'm not a citizen of Burma because of that law. That's the way, like me, millions, over 1 million Rohingyas are not citizen in Burma. That systematically they are denying all the rights, and under that law we are facing restriction of movement, marriage, and education. New apartheid system, the apartheid introduced there. Proper Rohingya cannot get out. Even one village which is called Aumingala in Aumingala village from Sitwe, they can't get out. It's a kind of, they live in a ghetto. So that's the way, the Northern Arakan is, as mentioned, is the people are living in a cage without a roof. It's an open prison. People are living a cage without it's a cage without a roof. That's the way the people are even hardly they are surviving.
Yeah. Shir, Tun here is referring to the Amnesty International report where they use the term caged without a roof, which is a very similar argument that the Palestinians in Gaza also are considered in open-air prisons. But when the UN published its report about the apartheid in Israel-Palestine, the UN General Secretary Guterres intervened and pulled the report. Now, Amnesty International has also refrained so far from applying the term in relation to Israel and Palestine. So what is the difference between Israel and Myanmar in this regard in relation to the Amnesty report?
Well, now hearing the words of Tun Khin about being denied citizenship for people who were born in the country for generations or living in this country for generations just because of their ethnicity, I'm actually struck by how similar the policies are, because also the Israeli government denies citizenship from people who were born in this area under the Israeli control, whether the Palestinian refugees from 1948 or Palestinians who live under Israeli occupation since 1967, and even in areas which were annexed by the Israeli government. So the similarities are striking. But in terms of the difference, of course, the difference is now we're hearing the United States officially stating that the Myanmar government is committing ethnic cleansing, while at the same time, the same US government is providing weapons to the Israeli government to continue its aggression towards Palestinians. And this sort of double standard, I think, really shows the difference between the two cases. The difference is, what is the international context? Who are their allies? And in fact, the government of Myanmar is rather isolated. Their main ally remains China, but in the West, they do not have as much support as the Israeli government has. And this is exactly the kind of support that makes it possible for the Israeli government to put pressure on the United Nations, also using the United States, their ally, to do that, in order to keep the term of apartheid to be applied to their policies. But I think people have to open their eyes and see that if the same policy or a very similar policy is used against people, then it really doesn't matter where in the world it's done or by whom or against whom. We have to call it by its name.
And Shir, there was some recent reports of the Israeli state selling arms to the state of Myanmar to carry out what they're doing there against the Rohingyas. Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, the Israeli Ministry of Defense is responsible for Israeli arms sales. And in fact, according to the Israeli Ministry of Defense, Israel is selling weapons to 163 countries around the world. And in fact, there are no diplomatic relations between Israel and 163 countries. This means that the Israeli Ministry of Defense is really selling weapons to anyone. However, there has been repeated attempts inside Israel by human rights activists to try to expose whether weapons are sold to the Myanmar government, weapons which are tested on Palestinians in the occupied Palestinian territory and then used in the repression of the Rohingya. The Israeli Ministry of Defense refused to answer this question, refused to release any kind of information. But in fact, it was in Myanmar that the government celebrated openly receiving gunboats from the Israeli government, patrol boats mounted with artillery and heavy machine guns, capable of intercepting people trying to escape into Bangladesh, for example, from the Rohingya territories near the border, and thanking the Israeli military company called the Israel Aerospace Industries, IAI, which has built these boats and armed them and then sold them to Myanmar. This is a state-owned company, the largest arms company in Israel. So now we know the facts. We know that the weapons have been shipped, and we know that despite a general reluctance of the global arms industry to sell weapons to Myanmar because of the atrocities committed against the Rohingya, really the Israeli arms exports stand out as one of the only countries in the world that agreed to sell to them.
And Tun, Palestinians living under Israeli apartheid are calling the world to join them in a BDS movement, which is the boycott, divestment, and sanctions on Israel in order to pressure the Israeli government to respect international law. What can and should people around the world do to express their concerns regarding the treatment of Rohingyas?
It's important. We also call in sanction against Burmese military, UN mandated global arms embargo. That's what we've been calling for, and targeted sanction to the military and boycott also or Burmese export. The other thing is it's important that this military we are also calling Security Council urging to refer to ICC, Burmese refer to ICC. We are also urging UN Security Council, Burma to refer to ICC, and a lot of targets we are calling together with international. But the point is how far international community will do. That is a question here, because we have not seen that much action, even though it's almost like 3 months that crisis is going on. There is not serious action we have seen from international community. This is very disappointing. So I think this is important. UN Security Council, they must call UN mandated global arms embargo, targeted sanctions, and provide and protection, security, and safety for the Rohingya inside Burma, as Burmese government is perpetrating genocide against Rohingya. So that's the thing we are calling. Same time, UN peacekeeping forces or other mechanism is needed urgently to protect the lives of the Rohingya. That is some calls we are doing, and of course, sanctions. When we talk, it is important that we have to come with a stronger action to punish this military. Accountability, to bring them international criminal code. This is important because who is perpetrating genocide. And same time, for the sanctions issue, we need to, we are calling global arms embargo, UN mandated global arms embargo, targeted sanction, and of course, any other anything we could do that would be good to punish this Burmese military and civilian government, where they are trying to destroy, where Burmese government, where Burmese military and government is committing genocide against Rohingya population.
Now, Shir, in light of the brutal repression and dispossession of Rohingya in Myanmar, maybe the plight of Palestinians are seen in a more diminished way, given the crisis we are facing in Myanmar with the Rohingya. Do you think that such a comparison is useful, and does it make sense that the Palestinian struggle is compared in this way to the Rohingyas?
I think this is a very delicate and important issue, because what we really need to avoid is a kind of competition of suffering, that one group is saying, well, our suffering is more significant or more important, and because and more urgent, so that the global community has to stand up and show its solidarity with one group in favor, one favorite group, and put the others on a lower priority. And I think this is exactly the kind of logic, the kind of language that is used in order to try to break up these solidarity movements and to take away their sting. This is what the Israeli government, for example, is saying. They're saying, well, we cannot deny what mistreatment of Palestinians under Israeli occupation, but it's worse in Syria, or it's worse in Myanmar. So leave us alone and go to some other part of the world. And I think, of course, this is in order to sow divisions within a movement. My response would be, no, there is no two struggles here. There is one struggle, and it's a struggle for justice for everyone. And we cannot say that that even though Myanmar is so far away from Palestine geographically, we have to see it as part of one system. And it's a system in which people are fighting to be equal and to be free, and are being repressed with brutality because of their ethnicity, or because of their religion, or because of their nationality, and it really doesn't matter, because people have a right as human beings to be equal. And so I think it is not diminishing the Palestinian struggle, actually, to show these sort of international solidarity.
Let me give you the last word, Tun. The Myanmar, or as you put it, Burmese state, is saying that they are being threatened by terrorists among the population, among the Rohingya population. What validity is there to this claim?
I should say this is a baseless accusation. Burmese army always try to get, when they are committing crime against humanity, the whole population, and they want to divert the issue from international community, by putting that. But when we see here, that ARSA, Arkan Rohingya Salvation Army, these are a group of young people where, they become desperate, where their fathers been shot dead by the Burmese army, their sisters been raped by Burmese army, they couldn't go to the university, they can't move from one village to another. So that's the way they targeted these security forces who are controlling, who are, putting them in open prison. So that's why these people, these Rohingya youth, are fighting with, this military that we can see, you can see they are fighting with a stick and some bamboos and some knives. That's the way they are fighting. These people are just desperate individuals. They are taking actions against these military and security forces. So as far as what I heard from recent my Bangladesh trip, these they are just desperate people, desperate youth they are fighting for. I don't see anything link of terrorists or any other things. This is just Burmese military to divert the issue, where they are committing genocide, the whole population, as you can see, so that's what they're trying to do. It's just like I should say, this is just like baseless accusation.
All right, Tun Khin and Shir, Hever, I thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.